My sister borrowed my 16-year-old son's emergency credit card while he was in school. She maxed it out, accused him of stealing, and my parents readily agreed with her story. They told me to teach my child responsibility. 3 days later, their faces turned pale when 3 missed calls from my mom, 2 from my dad, and a wall of text messages all screaming the same thing. You need to get control of your son. He stole from you. This is exactly what happens when you spoil a kid. I was still sitting in the break room at work with half a sandwich in my hand when I saw them. At first, I thought something had happened to Caleb, my 16-year-old, but by the time I finished reading, I realized they weren't worried. They were furious. Apparently, Caleb had gone on some kind of spending spree after school. That was the story. My sister Mia said she saw him at the mall with a bunch of shopping bags, bragging about his new gear, and flashing a card around like it was a toy. According to her, he blew $5,000 on electronics and games and had no remorse. Then, like a well-timed chorus, my parents backed her up and said I'd let him get too comfortable. I felt cold all over. Not because I believed it, but because of how quickly they all turned on him. I checked my banking app. Caleb had an emergency credit card under my name, one I'd given him last summer after a school trip fiasco. It was for safety only, never used, never even touched. Until that day. It was maxed out. Every single dollar gone. First transaction. A $1,200 iPhone at an electronics store. Then an iPad. Then a MacBook. Some headphones. Then clothes. Then Uber Eats. All within 4 hours. All while Caleb was supposed to be in school. My first thought was, maybe it was stolen. Maybe someone lifted it from his backpack or hacked it somehow. But then I remembered something strange. Mia had stopped by our house earlier that week. She said she needed to pick up a package I signed for. She was alone for maybe 20 minutes. Caleb was still at school. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. When I got home that evening, Caleb was on the couch staring at the floor, his backpack untouched, shoes still on. His eyes were red and he didn't say anything at first. I asked where the emergency card was. He didn't answer. I asked again. He told me he didn't know, he hadn't seen it in weeks. He thought I'd taken it back. That's when I knew. Mia had it. Somehow she got it from his room, spent every dime, then turned around and told everyone he did it. The thing is, she'd pulled stunts before, borrowing money and forgetting to pay it back, lying about what she'd bought, but never like this. Never against my kid. And she was smart about it too. She told my parents just enough to get them angry before I even knew anything had happened. She knew they'd believe her. She'd always been their golden child. But here's what she didn't count on. I'm not stupid. And I keep records. The credit card app logged everything. Exact store names, transaction times, locations, even contact info. And one store in particular, the electronics shop where most of the money vanished, they had security cameras. Good ones. I called them that night. Told them my card had been used without permission. That I was filing a police report, but I needed to know who used it. At first, the manager told me they couldn't give out footage without an official case. But I was persistent. I said if the card had been stolen and they let the thief walk out with thousands in gear, they might be on the hook too. He hesitated. Then asked me to come in the next morning. That night, I didn't say anything to anyone. Not to Caleb, not to my parents, not to Mia. Let them believe their version a little longer. Because what I saw on that footage the next day changed everything. The next morning, I walked into the electronics store with the card statement printed in my hand and a pit in my stomach. The store manager, a guy named Paul, met me near the back office. I could tell he didn't want to be involved, but once he realized I wasn't going to stop pushing, he finally pulled up the footage. We started with the timestamp from the first purchase. 2:14 p.m. 2 days ago. Caleb was supposed to be in school at that time. And just like that, there she was. Mia. My sister. Clear as day, standing at the counter with the card in her hand, smiling like she'd just won the lottery. She bought a brand new iPhone and didn't even flinch. Then she added a MacBook. Headphones. 2 tablets. She laughed with the cashier, bagged everything up and walked out like she did this every day. She didn't look nervous. She didn't even try to hide her face. It wasn't just shocking. It was insulting. Like she wanted to get caught but assumed no one would bother checking. Like she thought she'd talk her way out of it like always. I asked if there was footage from the other stores too, and Paul said I'd need to contact them directly, but honestly, I didn't need more. I had everything. Her face. the purchases, the timestamps, all matched perfectly to the card's log. But I wasn't going to the police. Not yet. I had a better idea. I spent the next day quietly gathering receipts, emails, bank logs, everything. I even found one of the listings she posted online. A brand new iPad for sale just days after it was purchased. The serial number matched the receipt. She didn't even bother changing accounts. Her name was still tied to the listings. I called my mom that afternoon and told her I wanted to come over. I asked if Mia would be there. She said yes. Mia was helping her clean the garage. Of course she was. Playing the helpful daughter while everyone believed her fake story about my son being some criminal mastermind. I told her I was bringing Caleb too. She hesitated, then said fine, but she hoped I was ready to have a serious conversation with him about consequences. Consequences. Right. 3 hours later we were all in the living room. My parents, me, and Mia sitting there like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth, holding a glass of wine and smiling just enough to be smug but not suspicious. Then I opened my bag and pulled out my laptop. I just want to show you something, I said. And I hit play. The room went silent. And then Mia's voice filled the air. She was laughing in the video, holding the card up while she waited for her purchase. There was no denying it. No angle she could hide behind. It was her. Her bag. Her face. Her ID on the purchase. My mom looked like someone had unplugged her brain. My dad leaned forward without saying a word. Caleb just stared at the screen wide-eyed. Mia's smile vanished. But she didn't confess. She stood up like I'd insulted her and said it wasn't her, that the footage must have been edited, that I was framing her to cover for Caleb, that I was jealous of her. That's when I pulled out the sale listings with her name and phone number. The serial numbers from the receipt matched the products she listed. She couldn't explain it. She just stood there frozen. Then Caleb finally spoke for the first time that night. I told you I didn't do it. And for the first time no one argued with him. Mia was about to walk out of the room when I said the words that made her stop cold. I haven't pressed charges. Mia froze at the doorway. I could see her weighing it, probably thinking if she should beg, lie, or fake a meltdown. That was her usual playbook. But this time she said nothing. Just stood there like her brain short-circuited. My parents were dead silent too. The same people who'd lectured me non-stop about teaching my son responsibility were now watching their daughter exposed as a thief, and not one of them had the guts to speak. I turned to my dad first. You believed her over your own grandson, without asking a single question. He looked at Caleb like he was seeing him for the first time. Not as a kid who screwed up, but as someone he owed a massive apology to. My mom still hadn't said a word. She just kept glancing between Mia and the laptop, like she was hoping the screen would glitch and give her a different version of events. I didn't let them off the hook. I'm giving you all one chance. Either she returns every single dollar, or I file a police report tomorrow morning. That got Mia moving. She started shouting that I was overreacting, that I was trying to destroy her life over a misunderstanding. She said she meant to pay it back. That it was just temporary. That she needed the money because her rent was behind and she didn't want to bother anyone asking for help. She actually expected sympathy. I looked right at my parents and asked, "Did she tell you Caleb was showing off bags at the mall?" They didn't answer. But I saw it in their faces. She'd made it up. All of it. She saw a card, figured she could spend big and flip the items for cash, and then pinned it all on a 16-year-old who trusted her. And they ate it up like it was gospel. Mia asked to speak to me alone in the hallway. I agreed only because I wanted to hear what kind of lie she'd come up with next. The second we were out of earshot, she leaned in and said it wasn't personal, that she just panicked and didn't think I'd notice right away. I asked her where the stuff was. The MacBook, the iPhone, the iPad. She hesitated and said most of it was already sold. She had about $1,500 in her account and could give that back now, but the rest would take time. I told her that wasn't good enough. She had 72 hours. Full amount. Or I go to the police with everything. She tried to hug me before I walked away. I didn't move. That night I sat in Caleb's room and asked him how he felt. He didn't talk much, but I could tell something inside him had shifted. That kind of betrayal from someone you called Aunt Mia doesn't fade quick. The next day Mia texted me 14 times. Mostly long rants, half apologies, and vague promises that she was working on it. She even offered to make things right with Caleb directly, but I told her not to contact him. Not until I said so. She had no idea what I was doing in the meantime. Because while she was scrambling to find cash, I was reaching out to someone else she never expected. Someone who just bought a MacBook from her online 3 days earlier, and had the receipt she'd stupidly given them with my card info still printed at the bottom. And this buyer? He was a lawyer. I found his listing on Marketplace purely by chance. I'd been searching local resale pages trying to trace where the electronics had gone. I didn't expect any hits. Mia wasn't dumb enough to leave digital footprints, right? Wrong. She used her real name and phone number on the ad. I still don't know if she was overconfident or just sloppy, but there it was. Barely used MacBook Pro. Bought last week, receipt available. $1,400 firm. When I clicked on the profile, it was still active. So I messaged the buyer directly. I introduced myself, explained the situation in calm, factual terms. No threats, no drama, just the truth. I told him I believed the MacBook had been purchased using a stolen card, and that I had the documentation to back it up. I asked politely if he still had the device. His reply came about 20 minutes later. He said he was a defense attorney. Had been for 13 years. He said the listing had raised his suspicions too because the woman selling the gear was nervous and avoided answering questions. But she had the receipt and seemed desperate. He bought it because the price was low and he figured she might be flipping it fast for cash. That wasn't illegal. But her name was on the receipt. And so was mine. He sent me a photo. I saw it right there. My name and last 4 digits of the card at the bottom. Then hers, scribbled in pen where she'd written something like, "Gift, from my sister." He told me professionally that if I wanted to go forward with a fraud case, he'd be willing to give a written statement, return the device, and even appear in court. He also mentioned something that gave me pause. If Mia had done this to me, she may have done it to others. He offered to make a few calls. I didn't tell Mia about him. Not yet. I waited. 2 days passed. She sent another frantic text saying she'd only managed to gather $2,000 and needed just a little more time. Said she was talking to a friend about a loan. I ignored it. Then I called my parents. I asked them to meet me. Just them. No Mia. We sat at a coffee shop. I laid everything out. The footage, the receipts, the sale listings, the buyer's testimony. Then I asked them a simple question. Do you still think Caleb stole that money? My dad didn't answer. My mom said she was sorry but added something about Mia being under a lot of pressure lately. That phrase nearly made me laugh. I told them Mia had 24 hours to return the full amount or I was pressing charges. I didn't say it for drama. I said it because it was true. I had a folder now. Physical evidence, statements, digital records. All admissible. And every hour that passed I was collecting more. Later that night I got another message. This time from the attorney. He'd found 2 more buyers who'd purchased devices from Mia. One had a receipt. One still had the box with the serial number on it. Both matched transactions on my card. It wasn't just theft anymore. It was fraud. Organized, deliberate, and traceable. She really thought I wouldn't go this far. He had no idea how far I could go. It was around noon when I called Mia for the last time. She didn't answer, probably guessing I wasn't calling to check in. I didn't leave a message. I sent a text instead. $3000 still missing. 3 items traced. 2 buyers willing to testify. You have 6 hours. No more. No response. I wasn't bluffing. I had everything. Screenshots. Footage. Statements. Serial numbers. Sale listings. I'd even printed out the ad where she listed the MacBook and circled the receipt number. The buyer, the lawyer, was more than ready to escalate it with me. And the other 2 buyers had responded quickly once they understood they'd unknowingly bought stolen items. The only person who hadn't responded? Mia. I knew where she was, though. My mom told me earlier she was resting at their house. After everything, after watching the video of her buying those electronics with Caleb's card, they were still letting her crash there like nothing happened. But my parents were different now. They weren't defending her anymore. Not openly. My dad had looked away when I said the word fraud. My mom had gone pale when I explained the gift receipt lie. They knew. They just didn't know what to do with the fact that their daughter had burned her own nephew and tried to pin it on him. At 5:18 p.m. I got a message. It was a photo of an envelope. Inside was a crumpled check for $3,000. No apology. No explanation. No subject line. Just that. Then another message followed. We're even. Please don't ruin my life. I stared at it for a full minute. Even. He thought this was even? She'd accused a 16-year-old boy, her own nephew, of theft. She let our parents scold and humiliate him. She weaponized their trust. She made him feel ashamed of something he hadn't done. She only paid the money back because I dragged her into a corner she couldn't lie her way out of. I didn't reply. Instead, I took the envelope and walked into the room where Caleb was gaming with headphones on. He paused when he saw me. She paid it back, I said. All of it. Every dollar. He looked confused at first, like he wasn't sure if it was real. I asked him if he wanted to go with me to return the MacBook to the lawyer who bought it. I said we could stop for burgers after. He nodded. No big reaction. He just stood up, grabbed his jacket and followed me out. That's when I knew the damage Mia had done wasn't just financial. It was trust. And that would take a lot longer to rebuild. But we were getting there. Together. Meanwhile Mia? He thought the nightmare was over. He was wrong. Because 3 days later she got a letter. From the IRS. The envelope was thin. Just one sheet inside. Standard IRS header. My mom was the one who called me about it, panicked. Said Mia had opened the letter, turned white, and locked herself in the guest bathroom for 2 hours. It wasn't even the police who came for her first. It was the taxman. See, that attorney who bought the MacBook. He wasn't just a helpful guy. He was meticulous. When we spoke after I returned the laptop, he told me he'd already reported the transaction to the IRS. Not because he wanted revenge. He didn't even know Mia personally. It was just protocol. Any suspicious resale involving large sums, especially with receipts attached, goes under review. She'd been flipping high-end electronics for cash. Thousands of dollars under the table, no documentation, no taxes filed. But she'd left digital fingerprints on everything. Her email. Her number. The listings. The sale receipts she gave people with my card's partial info on them. And the IRS? They don't care if you're desperate. They don't care if it was just a one-time thing. If they think you've committed income tax fraud, especially with stolen goods, you're on their radar. Mia tried to spin it. She told my parents it was all a misunderstanding. That the money had been a loan, that I was blowing things out of proportion. But my mom wasn't buying it anymore. Not after watching her own daughter throw a child under the bus to save herself. Then came the call from the second buyer, the one who purchased the iPad. He told me he'd gone to the police after realizing it was bought with a stolen card. I hadn't even contacted him directly. Mia had made that bad of an impression. Said she showed up late, acted cagey, pushed him to pay in cash only, and wouldn't answer questions about where the tablet came from. So now there were 2 reports filed. One tax-related, one criminal. I hadn't even filed mine yet. But I didn't need to. Mia had dug the hole herself, one shovel at a time. The last time I saw her was 2 weeks later. She showed up at my door unannounced, wearing sunglasses and a hoodie like she thought someone might be watching her. Caleb was at a friend's, so I let her in. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just asked one question. Are you going to press charges? I said I hadn't decided yet. She asked if there was anything she could do to fix it. I told her she already did everything she could. She taught my son exactly what kind of person she is. And I closed the door. I still don't know what the IRS will do or if the police will go further. I haven't pushed it. I got the money back, and more importantly, Caleb knows I believed him. I fought for him. I showed him that even when people lie and twist the truth, facts matter. Evidence matters. Trust matters. As for Mia, she disappeared off social media. Moved out of my parents' place. I heard she's couch surfing and trying to find a new job. But people talk. And jobs don't love hearing your name pop up in fraud reports. Actions have consequences. And she finally learned that some things you can't